coach at Mankato West, where his team's won 2 state championships. So he's been on Dave's staff there for a while now. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. They're not going to go wrong either way. And, when I think about Dave, I first met Dave after a game up in Blaine, so we're probably talking 25 years ago. I was covering the game for the Star Tribune. And after Dave got done talking to his team after the game, I just introduced myself. And Dave, just smiled, flashes that big Dave Nelson grin, and it's like you've known him your whole life. He's that kind of a guy. And when he went to Minnetonka, it was really interesting. He kind of changed the landscape of high school football by how he went about it there. In that first year in 2002, I was there at the very first practice. And basically, I did a deep dive into that football program from the first practice that year through the first game. I was there a lot. It wasn't every day, but I think the first week I was there at every practice and meeting and did kind of a series of stories about this. And the thing that stood out initially was the assistants he hired, these great experienced assistants. But he had 25 assistants with the varsity, sophomore, and freshman coaches. There were 25 coaches. And on the varsity, there were 11. And at the time, so Dave had 10 assistant coaches on the varsity. At the time, the Gophers had 9 assistant coaches. And the Vikings had 13. I went back and found that story. So he really ramped it up and made it just almost a professional way to coach high school football. And, 3 years later, then they're state champs. And you look at the facilities at Minnetonka. When Dave was there, they didn't have much. They had the football stadium, and I don't think they had any artificial turf. Now they've got the football stadium is turfed. It's a fantastic place to play and watch football. And they've got the baseball field, which is basically 2 artificial turf football fields. And then they've got another practice field with turf. And I know Dave's been involved in all of that, of just fundraising and boosters and getting that done. So his impact on Minnetonka, as well as at Blaine, it's going to be there forever. And the story in the Star Tribune about his retirement, he mentioned his wife, Maureen, who would love to see Ireland in the fall. And now they can do that. They've got grandkids. I think Dave is 63 maybe. And just as fine a family as I know, and as good a coach and as good a guy as I've ever known. So let's hope Dave and Maureen can get to Ireland and just enjoy retirement.
Absolutely, congratulations to Dave. From the Prep Bowl to basketball, time to transition.
Yeah, I was at the Breakdown Tip-Off Classic last Saturday at Hopkins. That's one of these all-day. This is the 16th year they've done it, all-day basketball, wall to wall. The Saturday of Prep Bowl, they did this for girls. And they have the same format for boys. They have 2 courts. And there's 16 games, 32 teams. It's really fun to just watch the games and chit-chat with players and coaches. And I was looking at the teams that were there, and 6 of these basketball teams also had their teams in the Prep Bowl the weekend prior. So I wrote about 2 of the smaller schools, Bold and Caledonia. I talked to coaches and players. It was interesting. One of the Bold players was telling me, so they lost in the Prep Bowl to Blooming Prairie. It was one of the early games in the day. And they go back home. They have a celebration in the gym, or they have some kind of welcome home. And then that night, some of the basketball players got a hold of the coach and said, "Hey, can we get into the gym?" So some of those kids were played in the Prep Bowl and then were in shooting baskets that night. And for both Bold and Caledonia, all but 2 of the basketball players were on the football team. So that's a very quick turnaround. And they played really well. Both of those schools clearly have great athletes. And the Brad King, who's the basketball coach at Caledonia, the boys coach, and then it has the sons, Noah and Eli, who we saw in the Prep Bowl and are great athletes in basketball too. I asked him about that quick turnaround, and he said it's a really good problem to have. I hope to have it every year. In Caledonia, they basically do. So there's a story about that on John's Journal, and it's just amazing what these kids do. When you have a great fall season, and boom, now it's wintertime, and you put on a different uniform, it's a different shaped ball, and away you go.
Absolutely. Let's go from Minnesotans who don't commit to Minnesota. I know Sid's offended. Is anybody else offended?
Yeah, I don't know that I'm offended, but Sid's definitely offended. Those kids will never get a job in this town.
Never. It's so obvious, that because we see it all the times. I mean, how could somebody like Tyus Jones ever work once he decides to go to Duke. I mean, he's not going to get a job in Minnesota. He's never going to make any money.
No, the poor guy. They're hurting themselves. So I was at the breakdown, and I was just kind of noticing there were a couple of moments there when I was looking at the teams and the athletes on the court. So in one game, Park Center was playing Eastridge, and Park Center has both teams has 6'10" seniors. Dane Danger from Park Center, he's big, strong, 6'10" kid, really powerful. He's going to go to Baylor, and then Ben Carlson from Eastridge, he's going to play at Wisconsin. And then on the other court, there were two other future Badgers in two different sports. Riley Mallman plays basketball at Lakeville South, and he's an offensive lineman in football. He's going to go to Wisconsin. And from Eastview, Stephen Crowell from Eastview, he's also going to play basketball at Wisconsin. So it was kind of Badger mania at the Breakdown Tip-Off Classic. I'm never going to fault a high school kid for going to college where they want to go to college, but it's interesting just to see the angst among Gopher fans when Minnesota kids don't go to Minnesota. And I'll never understand that kind of thinking. How can you fault a high school kid and his parents and his family, who's ever involved in the decision, for doing what they think is the best decision for them? So I'm never going to rip PJ Fleck or Richard Pitino for who they recruit or who they don't. I'm always amazed at the vitriol people have for 17-year-olds and 18-year-olds who make that decision and it doesn't pan out the way somebody else thinks it should.
Yeah, it's awful. We really need to get away from that mindset. We never will, but we need to. But people with some decency should shout down the people who want to pick on high school kids in any case. Let's go to one of your favorite categories on this show. Thank a ref.
Yeah, this is really spectacular, Jim, and we're going to follow up on this at some point in some way. I got an email from Kyle Lampa, who's an official in multiple sports up on the Iron Range, and there's several Lampas up there who officiate. I've seen 3 Lampas officiate a basketball game in the past, and they call it the legal firm of Lampa, and Lampa, and really great guys. Kyle sent me an email, and he tweeted a picture here. So he's working a game at Little Fork, Big Falls, a small school up there. They've got this great program to kind of help people understand and treat officials right. So they have little kids, 3rd through 5th graders. They're called referee helpers. They are dressed in referee shirts, and on the back in big orange capital letters, it says "Respect the refs." And what these kids do when there's timeouts, these kids come out on the floor, bring a bottle of water for the officials, chat with them, say hi, and then head back to the sideline and wait for the next timeout. And as Kyle wrote, they're prompt, safe, and they really add to the enjoyment of officiating events in the school. The students, their parents, and the administration at the school should be commended for thinking of this gesture and really making our night with it. On long winter nights, officiating multiple games a week, it truly is the little gestures that make it worthwhile. And he closed his note with kudos to Little Fork, Big Falls. But how about that? They've got referee helpers with little striped shirts on that say "Respect the refs" on the back, and I bet those refs are treated well by everybody when you set that kind of an example in the gym.
Absolutely. Pessimists of the week. This is a new category.
This is a new one, and you and I, Jim, we have worked with coaches, and you name the sport, we've worked, interviewed, talked with, spent time with coaches. So at the breakdown, I'm not going to name names here, but I chatted with dozens of coaches. I know so many of these, and some of them I met for the first time. But you like to talk, and the question you ask at this point in the basketball season, how's your team going to be? What do you think this year? So these are two great coaches. They've both won state championships. The quote from one of them is, "Oh, we're green. We're really green. I don't know. We're so young." The other one was, "We're not very good." And they're both very, and both these teams are really good. So that's, so I tweeted something about that, and I said, "Coaches, eternal pessimists," and they absolutely are.
Oh, no question about it. And they always want to believe that they always want to present the mindset that their team has problems and the other team is flawless.
It's amazing. Yeah, you've never heard a coach say, "Oh, we're going to be really good this year."
Yep.
We don't win it all. We're doing, it'll be an injustice. You never hear that. It's like, man, we're green. We're not very good. I don't know. We'll see. We'll muddle through. It's just amazing.
It's funny. Let's go to Sportsmanship Matters. This is another one of your favorites.
Yeah, another sportsmanship thing. We've got a new program at the high school league. We call it the Sportsmanship Challenge. It's a monthly award sponsored by Wells Fargo. And the first Sportsmanship Challenge winner of this school year is the Minnesota River Conference. And they do, as the school year is starting in the fall, they get kids from each of these schools. And the schools are Tri-City United, Sibley East, LeSueur Henderson, Norwood Young America, Belle Plaine Mayer Lutheran, Southwest Christian, and Jordan. I have been to each of those schools, great places. But they basically bring kids and, kids, athletes, students from all the schools together. And they kind of spend, I think it's half a day in a room, and they have discussions and, group discussions. They'll bring in a speaker to talk about sportsmanship and character, and basically they get to know each other. So when they're at a game and the temperatures are running hot, they know each other, and they've been through this, I guess, training you'd call it. And a lot of conferences do this. And so kudos to the Minnesota River Conference for being the first Sportsmanship Challenge winners of the school year. And there was another great example of this from St. Peter High School. I saw a tweet. So they had a boys basketball game at Glencoe Silver Lake, and someone tweeted a picture of the basketball players from St. Peter High School picking up trash in the bleachers after a game at another school. Maybe they have personal connections to the custodial staff. I don't know, but that's really cool. Their game's over, they're packing their gear up, and they stop and take, it couldn't have taken them very long. Just pick up the trash in the bleachers. We all should do that anyway. There shouldn't be any trash in the bleachers. Yeah, you're going to spill a bag of popcorn maybe, but so way to go, St. Peter High School boys basketball for going the extra mile. That's a great example for everybody.
Let's wrap up the show with John heading to Rochester. Once again, thank you to our producer, Brandon Morton. Please follow us on Twitter at TalkNorthPod. Check out all the shows at TalkNorth.com or subscribe to the network in general. Once again, a big thank you to Pizza Barn in Princeton. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, I'm going to go to Rochester Saturday here, Jim, for another big all-day basketball event. This one's really unique. It's called the HVL TRC Showdown, and I'll break that down. Hiawatha Valley League and the Three Rivers Conference. Basically, they mix and match boys and girls teams, conference versus conference. And they play it at the Mayo Civic Center, where they're using 2 courts. So that's this Saturday, 14 games, 7 girls games, 7 boys games. If you want to go watch some great basketball in Rochester here, it's $7 for an adult, $5 for kids. One game I'm really excited about. I talked about the Caledonia boys. They're going to meet Lake City at 8:30 Saturday night. I'll be down there at some point in the afternoon and stay through that game. That's a really good matchup. Two really strong basketball programs down there. We know all about Caledonian football, but their basketball is very good too. So here's how smart I am. We're in full blown winter, so I'm going to Rochester on Saturday. Monday, I'm going to the Iron Range. So I'm not going to get into too many details about this story. It's pretty unique, a pretty unique situation up on the Iron Range. I'm going to do some reporting on Monday and have a story after that. But yeah, I'm so smart. In the middle of winter, I go to Rochester one day, and 2 days later, I'm headed to the Iron Range. So, and I do not have 4-wheel drive. So everybody say a little prayer for the John's Journal Toyota Camry. Let's hope we can do this. And so far, the weather forecast looks okay. We might be able to pull this off.
Well, I'm glad that Toyota is sponsoring your ventures, but you might want to get a deal with Boeing too.
Yeah, there you go. The John's Journal aircraft.
Absolutely. Hey, John, I appreciate it. Good stuff from John as always. Thanks to everyone who listens. We will be back next week, and we'll maybe have some holiday thoughts as well, along with all the prep news.